Hi guys, my name's Shai and today I'm going to be talking about my autism story and diagnosis. When I was 15, I was diagnosed with autism, or as we formally know it, Asperger's syndrome. I know we don't use that term anymore, but that was what it was at the time. Or you could even say high functioning autism. And this was considerably late for my diagnosis. It's not unusual when it comes to females, and you probably know that, because we're good at masking, or what I like to say is like putting on a brave face. At the time of my diagnosis, it wasn't actually something I was pursuing. It was my parents who wanted to go through with it because I'd had some extensive problems in my childhood and they seemed to only be getting worse. This process started when I was about 13 years old. In my first year of high school, I started having appointments with a pediatrician, and at first I was kind of standoffish because I was very depressed and feeling very alone in high school, I guess, not really knowing how to navigate it with all the bullying that was going on. It was my little 1 hour escape a week. He's the one who suggested that I might have autism. It's expensive in my country to get diagnosed, so we actually went through the public system. So I didn't get diagnosed until I was 15, so that's about like a few years of waiting for it to happen. I know it's such a privilege. And I know in my country now they do 3 diagnoses for under 30, but like I said, it's a long waiting list. I'm not sure what it's like in your country. So when I was diagnosed, it didn't really make any difference to me because I wasn't really understanding what the point of it was. Like, how would it change anything? Up until that point, I'd had a rough time as it was already, and pretty much thought I always would. It's kind of sad to say I thought that I wouldn't actually live to be this age now because I just felt so bad. So this was just another label to me, and I felt no good could come out of it, especially at that time, at a stage, the whole autism thing, before this acceptance movement sort of came along. It was really popular slur on the internet, and even in physical life, people were using it just as derogatory term in school. So I didn't really tell anyone about it. A few of my teachers knew, but even they didn't know what it was. So it was basically no use at all. I mean, they did at one stage ask if I wanted a teacher's aide, and my parents were like, yeah. And so I don't think they understand that everyone with autism had different capabilities because, they wanted to escort me to the bathroom and sort of things like that, which is not something I have an issue with. So like I said, the reason my parents sought a diagnosis for me was because of the issues I was having in childhood and in life. And it started off probably when I was a baby. I used to cry a lot. And then when I was a toddler, I had a delay in motor skills, learning to tie shoes, learning to ride a bike. It took me a lot longer. And my coordination, I kept bumping into things and tripping up and hurting myself. I still have that problem now. So this isn't a problem for everybody with autism, but it definitely was to me, and even can be a problem for just neurotypical people. Especially with my eating, I was very fussy. I wouldn't eat anything that was just not plain. It couldn't be mixed. It had to all be separated, and if I didn't like the smell of something or the taste of something, I would dry reach, which was, and I really had trouble with a knife and fork, and people would just not. They were very confused about the whole thing because, a picky child is probably a nightmare. But a lot of people are more understanding now. All my senses were super sensitive, especially how I said with smells, light, sound, a tapping of a pencil would just drive me insane. I'm trying to think. So I guess when I'm with kids, when I was, making some friends or being in playgroup or something, you know, talking to people wasn't a strong suit. Like when we play pretend, like they'd want to be talking about like princesses or fairies, and I just wanted it to be really serious. I didn't want, any of it to be pretend. I wanted it to be so realistic, and I wanted everything to go my way, and the other kids didn't want to play like that. So I had to be in control, I had to have the control of the situation, and it just didn't work. And a lot of kids were confused by me, I guess, because, when I have a conversation with them, it'd be very literal and very serious. I couldn't keep up with what other people were talking about. I didn't really get their interest. Like, they're all interested in, let me think of something like Bratz dolls or something. I was interested in like forensic science. It was really random. And I'd like to collect things all the time, which was other people didn't get. And I was really obsessed with the internet, where it's like around that time, everyone my age didn't really know or use the internet. It was kind of like a luxury thing. So they were all kind of out playing in the park. But when I did, I didn't fit in. Everyone always said I looked sad, and they still do, because my face is very like flat affect, which just means, I look pretty, I just like to call it my depression look, or resting bitch face. And my voice is very monotone, so it has like no pitch. And so, yeah, people think I'm always angry or depressed, and they're all like, cheer up, smile. And I literally got that the other day as well, and I've been getting it all my life. And I just always said what was on my mind, and I didn't understand sarcasm. I'd take things very literally. So people was messing with me, especially saying, all these things, and it would just overwhelm me. I didn't have a filter, so, if my parents were talking about something in private and I'd overheard that, or they said something to me in secrecy, and, it came up at a conversation, I would just blurt it out. And I think there was one example where, my parents talked about how rich one of their friends was, and then, their friend was there, and I said, oh, you're rich, and they're like, signaling from behind, like, don't talk about that, but I just kept going on about it because I didn't know, what does this mean? So I just, and I was super honest, so if I ever, when people lied to me, I was very annoyed, because honesty is like a huge thing for me. And I'd always dob myself in, like if I ever did anything wrong, I'd just dob myself in. So that's the worst lie ever. Like, facial expressions is like one of the hardest things, and when I look at someone, it's very hard to work out what, they're feeling. Even the voices, the tone of their voices could not be matching what they're saying, and I think they're angry when really they're just fine. So I constantly asking people, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? And of course, because I asked so many times, they're like, yes, I am. And they're joking, but I'd be like, oh, what did I do? I'm so sorry. And, eye contact, even now, I don't know really, I'm looking off everywhere, but eye contact is really, like, just didn't, like, what was the point? Like, I don't see the point of it. I kind of get it now, but I do find it, like, it's a little bit creepy. I don't really want to be staring people in the eyes, but I remember specifically my teacher was like, you should look me in the eyes when you're talking to me. It's respectful. I said, well, actually, the words aren't coming out of your eyes. I can hear what you say perfectly fine. I just don't really see the necessity for looking you in the eyes. So I guess a lot of people off-put by the fact that I don't look them in the eyes. I don't think I'm interested in them or what they're saying. I make more of an effort to do that now. My anxiety was very high, and the ability to handle stress was extremely hard for me in public, especially because of my sensory issues, just the light and the noises and all the people. I just felt so physically sick, and I was overwhelmed, and my vision would start to go black, and I'd sort of just like drop to the floor. My hearing would go all distorted, and I'd get so sick that sometimes I'd vomit. And when I got older, I even had a period of time where I had seizures in my sleep due to the stress of just growing. I was lucky that I did have like a friend that, you know, when I did occasionally hang out with her, you know, I'd have pocket money or something and she would, you know, buy the stuff for me because I couldn't face the cashier. And, you know, I remember once I saved all my pocket money. I was just alone and I walked all the way to the shop. Someone looked at me funny, so I walked all the way half an hour back, you know, because I was just too anxious. Older and older as I got, I felt very depressed and very alienated and very alone, secluded myself, and I had no friends. You know, all I would do on my lunch breaks at school was just go into the computer room and just hide out by myself. Yeah, and eventually, like, I did make friends, but it was with the wrong kind of people and they took advantage of me, and I actually got involved with some pretty bad things, including drugs. And for once my life did feel kind of like normal, but after a while it just made me crazy. So yeah, that was a whole thing that happened just to try and cope with my depression because it was really bad. Unfortunately, because of all the stress, like when I was doing my like end of year exams and stuff, I just walked out mid-exam because I was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. So I got a doctor's note. They said I couldn't do my exams. And, you know, I couldn't go through with pursuing university studies at that time, which I'm going back to now. So, yay. I was eventually, like, hospitalised a few times because of how bad my depression was and, like, my skills with people. I just felt, like I said, so bad, which also led to me being diagnosed with a mood disorder. And I still struggle even to today. Like, I take medication. Sometimes I have, you know, see a psychiatrist, have psychology sessions if I can be bothered. You know, when I first got into the workforce, it was so scary, and the first job I had was in hospitality, working in a restaurant, which was so bad, and they recommended it as like one of the worst jobs for people with autism, you know, because all the time I just had people telling me, oh, you know, you should smile, you know, look happy, love, like, you know, they complained because, you know, I'd never laugh when they told a joke. I'd just be like, hi, how are you going? Didn't really know what to say. I didn't really make conversation, and, you know, there's this whole site, TripAdvisor, I'd get really bad reviews on my customer service, which, you know, and it was so stressful sometimes that I had to take a lot of time off work. Like I said, I was hospitalised at one point. So every now and then I just have like a 2-week respite. And that job was all right until up until the point where they hired some new people and they started bullying me, and I had no way of coping with that. The boss didn't help, and so I had to leave that job, and I had a lot of time off from work, and now I'm pursuing uni studies, but even at my age today, bullying is still a really big thing in the workplace. It seems to be everywhere I go. But fortunately I have been able to make some friendships along the way, and, you know, I feel like I have come so far. I'm leaving a lot out of the positive things that have happened along my life. Like, I definitely feel I'm quite independent now. Like I said before, I mentioned I couldn't even order my own food or buy anything at the grocery store. I can do all that now. I'm very capable. I can have conversations with people. I'm confident. The only thing, you know, that's really bad, which I don't think I'll ever be able to do, and I'm not just saying that, is driving, because that absolutely scares the shit out of me. And it is a bit inhibiting because I can't go and do things or get places. And obviously having a job is quite hard. Seems that I'm always having run-ins, like I said, with bullying or stress levels. So I've got to think of ways around that. You know, it's hard. It's a lot harder than people would think. It's not just being, you know, feeling different. There's a lot more that comes with it, like a baggage. And some people never find happiness. You know, I'm quite content, and, you know, I feel for all those people out there who are still discovering themselves and seeking diagnosis and trying to get clarity. I've been fortunate enough to find that. So that's a little bit of backstory about my diagnosis of autism, and I might post more to this channel. But thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great time of day wherever you are.